figured our way to get out.
Well, logistic players are seeing nearly 40% growth in the run-up to Diwali as demand returns with a bang. For players like Shiprocket, growth is being led by Tier 2 and 3 towns increasingly coming online and new segments like D2C, gifting and cross-border shipping picking up. Shilpa Ranipeta caught up with Akshay Ghulati, the co-founder of Shiprocket, and started off by asking him about the growth in order volumes this festive season. Take a look.
I think, the last month has seen a growth in demand. Obviously, demand has grown almost 30 to 40% compared to the previous month and the averages during the year. Normally, I would be honest in saying that you expect almost a 70 to 80% increase during the festive season. I think this year it's going to be around 40%, which is slightly lower than previous years because we see a lot of offline opening up. That's what we're hearing as well. And I think this year is the true new normal, as I would say, where we have a lot of shoppers who are shopping online and there's a permanent conversion to people doing their gifting online, to people buying online. But a lot of people who were shopping online only because they were afraid during the pandemic, that demand is back offline.
That's interesting. And Akshay, run us through Shiprocket's prep to handle the festive season rush this time in terms of enhancing warehousing capacities, hiring. What have you done?
So exactly some of the things you mentioned, right? We did all of them. So I would put a checkbox against all of those. I think for us, the guiding principle, both from a customer perspective as well as a platform perspective, was that more sellers wanted to enable 1 and 2 day delivery on the platform. I think that was the guiding factor and the feedback that we had before the festive season. So what we did was obviously we very aggressively expanded our warehouse network across the country. We have over 40 plus warehouses now, and made sure that everything was adequately staffed, whether it was permanent or temporary workers, with the aim that we should store our goods closer to customers and we aim to deliver a majority of the orders within 1 to 2 days.
And also, are you seeing gifting picking up significantly this year? And what trends are you seeing on that end?
It is. And I think for us, we have a unique lens on the D2C segment for gifting, especially because we're one of the largest platforms for D2C brands to sell online. Ship online and fulfill online, not really sell. And that is, we're seeing tremendous growth in that part. A lot more people are now buying gift hampers for corporate gifting from D2C brands. Traditionally, there were a lot of FMCG and offline brands that used to dominate this space. And I think for the first time, we're seeing a lot of demand go towards D2C brands now.
And in terms of geographies, which areas are you seeing that are really picking up in terms of shipping? Any areas that particularly surprised you?
There is a lot of demand as well as supply now coming from Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, both in terms of sellers from these cities going online and shipping to customers nationwide, but at the same time, obviously, a lot more demand coming here. Cities like Surat have become a very important part for us, both from a demand and supply perspective. It's in our top 5 cities, especially from a supply perspective for the first time this year. And cities like Kolkata, you cannot call it Tier 2, but where a lot of the demand traditionally was not a hub for us for demand. This year, cities like Kolkata are also becoming more important. And what we're generally seeing is that Tier 2, Tier 3 is becoming a much larger component of our overall business. And it's a trend we've seen almost uniformly throughout the last 12 to 18 months, that a lot more demand as well as supply is coming from these cities now. And for us, there are new segments and new markets that are now opening up. For example, we just got into cross-border this year. And cross-border orders during the festive season is something that's been a revelation for us. And we definitely see a lot more demand from customers overseas now for Indian products.
Akshay, you mentioned macroeconomic scenarios earlier. I wanted to understand from you, what has been the impact of the inflationary scenario? Now, fuel prices surged earlier this year. I do understand now the impact has cooled off, but did you happen to pass on any of those hikes to the customers? What's it like now for you?
So I think we saw a lot of that inflationary pressure from a logistics point of view in the early part of this year when crude oil hit an all-time high. And so I think for us, it's been fairly stable and normal in the last 4 to 5 months. But the first half of this year did see those costs, some of them being passed on to the end users as well. But the last 4 to 5 months have been pretty stable. And I think prices have also been pretty stable as far as logistics are concerned. International it's a whole different kettle of fish, right? Because international flights you weren't getting a lot of cargo space earlier this year. If you wanted to ship overseas, that has obviously opened up. But again, international freight still tends to be high and tends to be more volatile. But on a domestic front, we're seeing cost stability, at least for now.
And any interesting trends that you can tell me in terms of categories or shopping habits that you've seen this time?
So I think the standout for us this year, and I'm going to go back to the point around the tier 3 cities, I think the standout really for us this year has been the number of sellers we've seen, not just tier 2 and 3, because we combine those terms very often, but specifically from tier 3 cities. I think we've seen a lot more people selling online from these cities. And I think generally as a category, personal care is really expected to have a tremendous growth this year, both from a D2C perspective, as well as an overall gifting perspective from what we're seeing.